Hello everyone, and welcome back to the channel. You're watching Six Path Weeb, the place where fanfiction ideas evolve beyond imagination. Today, we continue the journey with another intense chapter in our Naruto x Transformers crossover series. What if Naruko bonded with a Cybertronian? Part 3. As alliances begin to shift and hidden powers awaken, Naruko's bond with the Cybertronian grows stronger than ever. But with greater power comes greater danger, and the shinobi world is about to witness something completely unexpected. Before we begin, a quick disclaimer. The content on this channel is created purely for entertainment and discussion purposes. I do not own any anime footage, music, or copyrighted material used in this video. Full rights and credits belong to their respective creators and copyright holders. Now, without wasting any more time, let's begin. Flashback. Samui, 18 years old and already tired of the evening, stood near the crowded street race with her arms folded. The whole place buzzed with loud music, cheering teenagers, and the smell of engine smoke. Honestly, she would have rather spent her Friday night almost anywhere else. This had all been Atsui's idea. Her older brother had insisted that she, Yugito, Daru, and Kaoru come along because Daru's boss had promised to help Atsui find a good car later. Unfortunately for Samui, that meant standing around a noisy crowd filled with people making silly bets and shouting over one another. "This is so uncool," Samui muttered quietly. Even bundled in a black shirt, leather jacket, and jeans, she could still feel people staring at her. She ignored it the best she could. Samui preferred calm places, not crowded events where everyone acted like they had forgotten how to think properly. Yugito gently nudged her shoulder and smiled. "Come on, Samui. Don't look so miserable yet. We only got here a few minutes ago." Samui gave her friend a flat look. "You're joking, right?" Yugito sighed dramatically. "We're supposed to have fun tonight. Relax a little." Kaoru pointed excitedly toward the glowing line of race cars. "Exactly. You're always so serious. Live a little." Daru shrugged lazily. "I could go for something warm to drink." Atsui raised a finger as if making an important announcement. "Then it's decided. Tonight, we enjoy ourselves." That earned a few laughs from the group. Across the crowd, a white-haired boy named Suigetsu stood on top of a wooden crate while waving a notebook in the air. "Last chance for bets," he shouted excitedly. "Who thinks Datara wins? Who thinks Naruko Uzumaki loses?" Samui turned toward the giant screen hanging above the street. It showed two racers preparing near the starting line, Datara beside a bright red sports car and Naruko Uzumaki leaning casually against a silver BMW. Naruko looked younger than most of the racers, maybe around 15 or 16, but she wore the confident grin of someone who feared absolutely nothing. "15 says the knucklehead loses," Sakura shouted loudly from somewhere in the crowd. "In agreement," Ino added immediately. Kiba laughed. "I'll bet she spins out before the second turn." Suigetsu only grinned wider. "Big mistake. Never bet against Naruko." Before anyone else could speak, Samui calmly held out some money. 70, she said. "My money," Yugito cried. "Samui." Atsui groaned. Daru rubbed his forehead. "This again?" Samui ignored them. If they dragged her into this chaos, the least she could do was borrow a little money for entertainment. Suigetsu happily accepted the bet. "Thanks. All right everyone, bets are closed." The crowd erupted into cheers as Naruko climbed into her car. Mangetsu, Suigetsu's older brother, crossed his arms confidently. "Naruko never loses." "That girl drives like the wind," Simka added with a laugh while sipping a soda nearby. On the screen, engines roared to life. The race began. Datara shot forward immediately, but Naruko moved with incredible control. Her silver car slipped around corners smoothly, almost dancing across the road. Every turn looked effortless. Samui raised an eyebrow. Naruko wasn't reckless. She was skilled. Sakura folded her arms stubbornly. "She's still going to crash eventually." Mangetsu glanced toward her with obvious disbelief. "What makes you think that?" "Because she's an idiot," Sakura answered. "Incredibly loud, too," Samui said coolly, causing Yugito to hide a laugh. Mangetsu smirked. "Watch carefully." Everyone turned back toward the giant screen. Naruko drifted cleanly around a difficult corner, pulling farther ahead of Datara. Simka laughed brightly. "First time here?" Samui nodded once. "Why?" "Because everyone who bets against Naruko loses eventually," Simka replied with a grin. People see her smile and think she's just some goofy kid. Then the race starts. Suigetsu pointed proudly at the screen. Naruko's basically a racing legend around here. More like a speed-loving maniac, Mangetsu corrected jokingly. But she always wins, Hugo said quietly from nearby. The large orange-haired teen had appeared so silently that several people jumped in surprise. Meanwhile, Naruko's car sped down the final stretch. The crowd counted down loudly. 3, 2, 1. Naruko crossed the finish line first. Cheers exploded through the street. Suigetsu nearly fell off his crate from laughing so hard. And that's another victory for Naruko Uzumaki. Kaoru groaned dramatically. There goes our money. Daru shook his head slowly. I should have known better. Samui stared at the screen as Naruko climbed out of the car, laughing brightly while friends surrounded her. For someone who looked so carefree, Naruko carried herself with surprising confidence. Samui quietly slipped her hands into her jacket pockets. Maybe this night would not be completely boring after all. Naruko let out a bright laugh as she stepped out of her orange and black sports car. Her long golden hair danced in the evening breeze while her friends cheered around her. No one can beat Naruko Uzumaki, believe it, she shouted proudly, flashing a peace sign. Groans rose from the crowd, especially from Kiba and Sasuke, who had clearly lost another friendly bet. Nearby, Samui stood quietly with her usual calm expression. Even surrounded by noisy racers and excited friends, she remained perfectly composed. Naruko noticed her immediately. Most people admired Samui for her beauty, but Naruko found herself fascinated by her gentle blue eyes. They reminded her of clear winter skies. Naruko walked over with a cheerful grin. Hey! I'm Naruko. Samui blinked slowly. Yes, I know. You announced it to everyone. Naruko scratched the back of her head awkwardly. Right. Good point. Samui, the blonde woman replied simply. Before the moment could become too quiet, Simka rushed in and wrapped an arm around Samui's shoulders. She's our ice queen, Simka teased. Samui sighed while Simka poked her cheek. Can you not? Samui asked flatly. Nope, Simka replied with a mischievous grin. Naruko burst into laughter while Suigetsu and Mangetsu celebrated nearby over their race winnings. That had been the beginning. And ever since that day, Naruko's life had become brighter. Present day. Morning sunlight spilled softly across the room. Samui rested comfortably beside Naruko, listening to the steady rhythm of her heartbeat. Naruko always felt warm, like a cozy blanket on a snowy day. Samui smiled faintly as Naruko gently patted her head. I love you, Naruko, Samui said softly. Naruko stared at her with wide blue eyes before breaking into the biggest smile imaginable. I love you too, Samui. Did you sleep okay? Samui nodded. I was dreaming about the day we met. Naruko grinned proudly. Pretty unforgettable, huh? Very loud, Samui corrected. Naruko laughed. Suddenly, a phone rang loudly across the room. Naruko groaned dramatically and reached for it. This better be important. Kaoru's voice exploded through the speaker. Turn on the news. Naruko winced and held the phone away from her ear. You know, she muttered, she really likes yelling. Samui gave a small nod. That is true. After turning on the television, both girls watched reports about strange accidents and mysterious events happening around the world. Boats had stopped working unexpectedly, planes were grounded safely, and entire cities were confused about what was going on. Naruko scratched her cheek thoughtfully. Huh. That's weird. Kaoru continued talking loudly through the phone while Amoe apparently invented wild theories in the background. Naruko finally sighed. I'm hanging up now before my ears surrender. She ended the call and flopped backward onto the bed. A second later, her phone rang again. This time it was Suigetsu. It's ready, he announced proudly. Naruko sat upright so fast she nearly fell off the bed. No way. Really? Before Suigetsu could answer properly, Naruko had already ended the call in excitement. Samui slowly raised an eyebrow. What did you buy this time? Naruko grinned from ear to ear. A Ferrari Enzo. Orange? Samui guessed immediately. Maybe. Of course it's orange. Hey! Orange is awesome. Yes, Samui replied calmly, the entire world knows. Naruko laughed sheepishly. Samui leaned closer and kissed her cheek. You may be ridiculous, she said softly, but that's part of why I love you. Naruko placed a hand over her heart dramatically. I'm your ridiculous person. That you are. Later that afternoon, Naruko stood proudly beside her brand new car at the racetrack while Suigetsu inspected it carefully. This is going to be amazing, Naruko said excitedly. Ready to see what she can do? Suigetsu groaned. Why do I always get dragged into these things? Because you secretly enjoy them. Fair enough. The two climbed inside the shiny car. Suigetsu noticed a strange glowing symbol near the steering wheel. What's that? No idea, Naruko admitted. But it looks cool. She started the engine, and the car hummed smoothly like a giant cat stretching awake. Naruko's eyes sparkled. Oh, this is definitely my favorite already. The car sped gently around the track while the sunset painted the sky orange and gold. Naruko looked happier than ever. Suigetsu crossed his arms with a grin. So what's next for the great Naruko Uzumaki? Naruko smiled thoughtfully. Well, more races, more ramen, more adventures. She paused. And maybe I'll finally ask Samui to marry me. Suigetsu nearly choked. Wait, seriously? Naruko nodded shyly. I already know what kind of ring she'd like. Suigetsu stared at her for a moment before smiling warmly. You really love her, huh? Naruko's grin softened into something gentler. More than anything. The white-haired racer leaned back in his seat. Well then, he said, you better make it the best proposal ever. Naruko laughed brightly as the car rolled forward beneath the glowing evening sky, carrying two friends toward whatever adventure waited next. Naruko nodded thoughtfully. Yeah, I'm okay. Just thinking, said the cheerful blonde girl as she glanced out the car window. A sleek black sports car pulled up beside them at the traffic light. Its shiny paint gleamed under the city lights, and the engine gave a loud, rumbling growl. Okay, that's actually pretty cool, Naruko admitted with a grin. Beside her, Suigetsu nodded. Definitely cool. The black car revved its engine again, almost like it was challenging them to a race. Oh no, Suigetsu groaned dramatically. This feels like one of your bad ideas already. The traffic light flashed green, and both cars sped forward down the road. Just like old times, Suigetsu muttered, though he was smiling a little. Suddenly, the black car swerved toward them. What the heck? Naruko blinked in surprise as she quickly changed lanes to avoid it. The strange driver tried again, but Naruko slowed down just enough to avoid another bump. Okay, seriously, what is going on? Suigetsu exclaimed. Who did you annoy this time? How should I know? Naruko replied. I've never even seen that car before. Her blue eyes narrowed thoughtfully. But I do have an idea. Suigetsu gulped nervously. Whenever you say that, something weird happens. Naruko carefully turned the steering wheel, making the car spin neatly around another lane. The move surprised the mysterious driver, whose car slid sideways and gently bumped into a street lamp before stopping. Ha! Nice one. Suigetsu cheered. Naruko laughed proudly. That'll teach them to stop chasing us. She pressed the gas pedal again. Now let's get away from that weirdo. Naruko? Suigetsu said slowly. What now? He pointed shakily into the side mirror. The black car they had left behind was changing shape. Metal plates shifted and folded. Wheels spun into place. In seconds, the car stood up as a towering robot with glowing eyes. Naruko's jaw dropped. Nope. Nope, nope, nope. She yelped. I am absolutely not ready for giant robots today. She sped down the road while Suigetsu clung to his seat. Behind them, the giant robot called out loudly, Don't run away. Things are just getting interesting. A strange mechanical cannon appeared from the robot's shoulder, firing bright energy blasts that flashed across the road. Naruko skillfully dodged them, weaving carefully between cars while trying not to scare anyone nearby. One blast struck the ground ahead, forcing her to stop suddenly. Drive, 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 Suigetsu cried. I'm trying. Naruko answered. She turned sharply and sped onto the freeway. After several tense moments, the giant robot finally disappeared from sight. Naruko let out a long breath. Okay. That was terrifying. Suigetsu buried his face in his hands. We almost got chased by a giant talking robot. Yeah, Naruko said weakly. Not exactly how I planned today to go. Suigetsu sighed. What are we even supposed to do now? Naruko thought for a moment. Probably not tell the police. They'd never believe us. Definitely not, Suigetsu agreed quickly. We just need somewhere safe, Naruko said. My brother's apartment is nearby, Suigetsu suggested. That works. Naruko turned the steering wheel toward the next exit, but suddenly the car moved on its own and continued straight down the freeway. Naruko blinked in confusion. I didn't do that. Suigetsu stared at her. Please tell me you're joking. The doors locked with a loud click. Both of them grabbed the handles, but they would not open. Hey, Naruko shouted. Open up. Then the seatbelts tightened by themselves. Oh, this is bad, Suigetsu squeaked. A calm voice suddenly spoke from the dashboard. You know, yelling at the steering wheel won't help much. Naruko and Suigetsu both jumped in surprise. What was that? Suigetsu cried. The radio flickered, and the voice spoke again. My name is Hot Rod, it explained politely. And before you panic, I'm not your enemy. Naruko stared wide-eyed at the dashboard. Our car can talk? Well, technically, I am the car, Hot Rod replied proudly. Suigetsu pointed accusingly at Naruko. You brought us into a secret robot adventure somehow. I did not. Naruko protested. Hot Rod chuckled warmly. I think introductions are needed. I'm an Autobot, a traveler from another world. The giant robot chasing you is called a Decepticon. Naruko blinked several times. So, aliens? Friendly aliens, Hot Rod corrected kindly. Mostly. Suigetsu leaned back in his seat with a groan. I knew today felt strange the moment I skipped breakfast. Hot Rod continued driving smoothly down the highway. The Decepticon chasing you is named Flatline. Unfortunately, now that he has seen you both, you may be in danger. That's why I'm taking you somewhere safe. Naruko exchanged a nervous look with Suigetsu. Well, she said carefully, this is definitely the weirdest day of my life. Hot Rod laughed softly. Trust me, Naruko. Things are only going to get more interesting from here. Time skip. Location, somewhere in the desert. It looks like Hot Rod has returned, said Jetfire as she spotted a vehicle racing across the sandy dunes toward the enormous cave. The moment the vehicle stopped, its doors swung open, gently dropping Naruko and Suigetsu onto the warm sand. Windblade crossed her arms and narrowed her eyes at the pair before turning toward Hot Rod, who quickly transformed back into his robot form. Why have you brought these humans here? Windblade asked firmly. Hot Rod rubbed the back of his head with an uneasy smile. Well, I had to. Flatline was chasing them. He explained quickly. Windblade's sharp expression softened just a little as she looked down at the two visitors. Moonracer carefully knelt so she could meet Naruko at eye level. Are you Naruko Uzumaki? She asked kindly. Naruko nodded. Yes, that's me. Moonracer tilted her head slightly. Do you know Orochimaru? Naruko gave another small nod. Why yeah. She's a family friend. I've known her my whole life. Moonracer stood and turned toward Windblade. I believe these two may be able to help us with our problem, she said thoughtfully. Windblade remained silent for a moment as the desert wind echoed through the cave entrance. Finally, Star Saber stepped forward, his calm voice filling the space. It would seem so. Like it or not, they are now part of this journey, he said. And perhaps these humans are exactly the help we need. Naruko blinked in surprise and glanced at Suigetsu, who simply shrugged. Far above them, the evening sky glowed orange and gold, while the mysterious cave behind the Autobots shimmered with hidden secrets waiting to be uncovered. Dear YouTube family. That's all for now. If you enjoyed this video, please like, share, and subscribe to the channel for more content ahead. Thank you for your support and time. Regards. 6 Path Weeb.